reborn through the great artistic and cultural revolution known as the Renaissance, the Eternal City has many challenges ahead as it enters into the modern era. This is Rome, a history in images. We have witnessed thousands of years of Roman history. Let us take a few moments to appreciate some artworks and places of this great city. Here is one work of art, of sorts. This is a cute dog that I almost always find minding the corner store at the end of Via Garibaldi. This large and impressive fountain is found on the Janiculum hill. It was built in 1612 to honor Pope Paul V for his renovation of an aqueduct that brought clean drinking water to the residents of the hill for the first time. James Bond fans might be interested to note that the Roman car chase in the film Spectre passes right in front of this fountain. Also of cinematic note is the famous Trevi Fountain. This 18th century work has been featured in many movies over the years. There are a number of squares or piazze in Rome, some big and some small, like this one, which honors Benedetto Cairoli, a 19th century Italian politician. The Piazza Campo dei Fiori is famous for its extensive and impressive daily market. The Piazza del Popolo is a beautiful square that was once a common location for public executions, the last one occurring in the 19th century. Piazza Navona was built on the site of the Stadium of Domitian. It has some beautiful fountains, the largest and most famous one being the Fountain of the Four Rivers by Bernini. As we work our way through our timeline, we find that Italy is now made up of many separate kingdoms. Rome continues to be part of the Papal States. In the early 19th century, Napoleon Bonaparte invades the Papal States and annexes them as part of his empire. Pope Pius VII is kidnapped and taken to Savona. This situation doesn't last too long. By 1814, Napoleon's empire is defeated. Napoleon and his family loved Rome. The branch of the Bonaparte family that lived in Rome started a collection of family heirlooms. These are now kept here, in Rome's Napoleon Museum. It is a fascinating collection of personal objects from the Bonaparte family. In Rome's Piazza Venezia, one can find the Palazzo Bonaparte. Napoleon's mother lived here for a number of years. The mansion stayed in the Bonaparte family until the first years of the 20th century. We have reached the mid-19th century on our timeline. The kingdoms of the peninsula grow weary of foreign interference. there are more strident calls for one unified kingdom, a kingdom of Italy. On Rome's Janiculum Hill, one can see many monuments and statues, tributes to the men, and sometimes boys, who contribute to the formation of a newly reunified Italy. Principal among these is Giuseppe Garibaldi, the famous general who helps to unify Italy and create a new kingdom. The King of Sardinia, Victor Emmanuel II, is a supporter of Garibaldi. When it comes time to create the new kingdom, Victor Emmanuel is made King of Italy. A large monument is built on the Capitoline Hill. Called the Victor Emmanuel II National Monument, the large structure was not well received by many Roman citizens when it was first built. In our own day, a number of tourists take a liking to it, most especially because it gives them an idea of what ancient Rome looked like in its heyday. In fact, the neoclassical style of this building is meant to remind people of Imperial Rome. The structure includes an altar of the fatherland with a statue of the goddess Roma, seen here at the center. At the base of the altar is the Italian tomb of the unknown soldier. You certainly remember the Pantheon from a previous episode of this series. When Victor Emmanuel dies, he is buried here. He is called Padre della Patria, the father of the fatherland. The reunification of Italy is complete. Because San Marino gives shelter to Garibaldi's troops in their time of need, it was not absorbed into the new kingdom. San Marino remains an independent state to the present day. But what of Rome? And what of the Pope? The Papal States no longer exist. Rome is considered to be the center of the new Kingdom of Italy. Troops do not occupy the Vatican, but it is clear that now the Pope and the Vatican must answer to the new kingdom. In the past, the Papal States had been a protection for the Church, giving the Pope a certain degree of independence from foreign powers. Now that they are gone, it becomes a puzzling question. What, if anything, belongs to the Pope? And what belongs to the Kingdom of Italy? This is known as the Roman question. With nowhere to go, Pope Pius IX and his immediate successors are prisoners of the Vatican. This state of affairs lasts for a number of years. The Lateran Treaty is signed. It recognizes Vatican City as a separate country, with the Pope as sovereign. Vatican City State thus becomes the smallest independent state in the world. There's also monetary compensation paid to the Vatican by Italy for the loss of the Papal States. The Catholic Church has regained a certain amount of independence from foreign powers, and now that the Pope is no longer sovereign of a huge part of central Italy, he is free to spend more time as the spiritual shepherd of the flock. It is interesting to note that, once freed from the Papal States, the power and prestige of the papacy grows tremendously. One of the signers of the agreement is a man named Benito Mussolini. He is Prime Minister of Italy, but also a dictator. While Catholics are thankful for the Lateran Agreement, as well as the Via della Conciliazione, the newly constructed avenue leading up to St. Peter's Square and the Basilica, they and other Italians must now live under a police state created by the dictator. It is time for us to visit the palace Mussolini used for his main offices, the Palazzo Venezia. The Palazzo Venezia was constructed many years ago right next to the Basilica of St. Mark we visited earlier. It was used as a papal residence by Pope Paul II and then became the embassy for the Republic of Venice. In the 20th century, it was used by Mussolini for his offices. Also, we see the balcony from where Mussolini gave his famous speeches, including his announcement of a new Italian empire and his declarations of war during World War II. Here is the entrance. This barrel vault ceiling was commissioned by Pope Paul II in 1466. And here we see the floor and the walls of the Barbo apartment. This was the residence of the Pope in the 15th century, and in the 20th century the offices of Mussolini. The beautiful globe room is where Paul II received visitors. It is also from where Mussolini would walk onto his famous balcony to give his speeches. And this room was for gatherings of cardinals in the late 1500s. It also became a dance hall, and 14-year-old Mozart performed here in 1770. This grand staircase was built by order of Mussolini. The Kingdom of Italy endures through half of the 20th century. Mussolini falls out of favor and is executed. In 1946, with much of Italy starving and destroyed from the brutal World War II, the monarchy is abandoned in favor of a new Italian republic. Completed in the 17th century, the Palace of Quirinal, former residence of many popes and kings, is now one of the official residences of the President of the Republic of Italy. Currently, Rome of the 21st century is as interesting and lively as ever. Let's take these steps down from the Janiculum towards Trastevere. Rome is known for its nightlife. Trastevere has been the place to be for hundreds of years. You can have a relaxing dinner, have some drinks, window shop, or watch the street performers. The Catholic Church is alive and well in Rome. It might surprise you that churches have been built here even in the 20th century. Pontiff during the difficult years of World War II, Pius XII commissioned this church, the Church of San Eugenio, having it named after his baptismal patron saint. I was fortunate to film a beautiful Christmas concert in this church dedicated to Pope St. Gregory VII. A short distance from Vatican City and commissioned by Pope Pius XII, the church was finished in 1959, and its interior decorations completed in 1961. We've been saving the best for last, the papal major basilicas. There are 4 of them: St. Paul outside the walls, St. Mary Major, St. John Lateran, and St. Peter's in Vatican City. St. Paul was beheaded in 65 AD, somewhere in Rome. There is a great debate as to where this actually took place. However, it is certain that he was buried on this property, perhaps by one who supported him in his ministry. A small shrine arose on this spot, and for the next 200 years many Christians would visit this place. Emperor Constantine built a small church here and officially consecrated it on November 18th of 324. 60 years later, other emperors tore down this small edifice to build a larger church. It was completed in 395, and from then on, the church has remained almost unchanged in appearance. A devastating fire in 1823 destroyed a great deal of the basilica. However, careful work resulted in a restored basilica that is virtually identical to the original. In the 2000s, careful and respectful excavations were done underneath the altar. Excavators found a marble sarcophagus that was at least 1,700 years old, if not older. The sarcophagus was inscribed with the words, Paul, Apostle, Martyr. The atrium of the basilica, what we might call the front courtyard, has a statue of St. Paul with his sword. The sword symbolizes the kind of death he endured. The statue dates from the 19th century restoration. The church features round mosaics of all the popes from St. Peter to the present day. Originally, these were paintings, and almost all of them were destroyed by the fire of 1823. It was Pope Pius IX who came up with the idea of making new portraits, but this time as mosaics, and not as paintings. There are less than 10 blank discs left to receive the images of new popes. The burial place of St. Paul can be viewed through a grille located underneath the main altar. Pilgrims can also see one of the chains used to confine the imprisoned St. Paul. St. Mary Major dates from the 5th century and is one of the most important churches in the world dedicated to the Blessed Mother. Tradition states that Mary appeared to a married couple in a dream. Childless, the couple was told to build a shrine to Mary where a miraculous snowfall would occur. A patch of snow was found there, certainly miraculous because it was the month of August, and so the church was built here. This is an area devoted to the Holy Crib of Jesus Christ. Pope Pius IX had a devotion to the Holy Crib, and so his statue is shown here looking towards the relic in prayer. Created in 1918, just after the end of World War I, Our Lady Queen of Peace humbly extends her hand, as if asking the world to stop the bloodshed. The Basilica of St. John Lateran gets its name from the family who owned the property. It is the highest ranking of all the major basilicas in Rome. At first dedicated to Christ our Savior, it is now dedicated to both St. John the Evangelist and St. John the Baptist. St. John Lateran is not just a major basilica, but a uniquely named archbasilica, and is also the Cathedral of Rome. St. Peter's in Vatican City is not a cathedral because it is not the seat of any one diocese. It is St. John Lateran that is the Cathedral of Rome, and therefore is the Pope's main church when he exercises his office as Bishop of Rome. Pope Sylvester I officially consecrated the new basilica with its adjoining Lateran palace in 324 AD. The church had to be rebuilt or restored on several occasions. The site was where the 5 Lateran councils took place. Many popes resided here until the Avignon papacy. 18 popes are buried here, the last one being Pope Leo XIII in 1903. What are said to be the heads of Saints Peter and Paul are located here, above the main altar, in this baldacchino. The magnificent bronze doors are actually from the Cordia Julia in the Roman Forum, where the Senate used to meet, that meeting hall built by Julius Caesar way back in January of 44 BC. The doors were brought here to the Lateran and stayed here. Now let us journey to Vatican City State and visit St. Peter's Basilica. Here it is, the largest church in the world. Its square can hold up to 300,000 people and includes the obelisk that once stood in the Circus of Nero and witnessed the crucifixion of St. Peter. Statues of both Peter and Paul greet those approaching the massive church. At the center we see the famous central loggia, from where the Pope gives formal blessings and from where the election of a new Pope is announced. Entering into the Basilica, we are greeted with a kaleidoscope of objects and artworks from different eras. For example, the door of the sacraments dates from 1965, with each panel showing the celebration of a different sacrament, while the red disc in the floor, often ignored by tourists, is a stone preserved from the old St. Peter's Basilica. Charlemagne was crowned here in 800 AD. The interior of St. Peter's can hold about 60,000 people. Both statues and tombs are present throughout the church. Here is St. Pius X, the Pope of the early 20th century who extended reception of Holy Communion to young children. This is a monument to his successor, Benedict XV, the Pope of World War I, whose peace plan was ignored by many but found its way into Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. The tomb of the great St. John Paul II attracts many visitors. Pope from 1978 to 2005, it is impossible to summarize his life here, but he was most certainly an extraordinary figure in the history of the Church. Pilgrims can get very close to the tomb of Pope Blessed Innocent XI. He died in 1689 and was known for promoting a greater reverence among priests and bishops. And in this altar, located in a side chapel, are the remains of St. John Chrysostom, a great saint, preacher, and writer of the 4th and 5th centuries. There are many statues. Perhaps the most famous statue here is the Pietà, sculpted by Michelangelo when he was only 23 years old. The bronze statue of St. Peter is of unknown origin but is close to 1,000 years old. So many millions of pilgrims have touched or kissed the right foot of the statue that, after so many centuries, the toes have worn down. The main altar is directly above the tomb of St. Peter. Above the altar is the baldacchino designed by Bernini. Each twisted column is 66 feet high and weighs many tons. Above the baldacchino is the dome. 5-foot-tall letters around the edge proclaim, "You are Peter, the rock, and on this rock I will build my church." The current successor of St. Peter is Pope Francis, elected in 2013. Like his predecessors, he meets with the faithful every week for the Wednesday general audience. The Swiss guards still protect the Pope as they have for hundreds of years. Donning colorful uniforms designed by Michelangelo, they are not to be underestimated. These young men go through a rigorous program, including basic training in the Swiss Army, firearms training, and martial arts. It is 2019, Easter Sunday. Thousands of people gather in the square for morning mass with the Pope. It is a city of startling contradictions, a city of war, a city of peace, a city of earthly pleasures, a city of spiritual illumination, a city of great buildings and old ruins, a city of humble farms, republics, kingdoms, and empires. In a city of endless exploration, this collection of photos and videos taken by me barely scratched the surface. But I take consolation in the truth that no one person can lay claim to the entirety of Roman history, only Rome itself can make that claim. Rome, whose soil held the first huts on the Palatine Hill, heard the galloping of horses at the Circus Maximus, cradled the bodies of many assassinated emperors, received the innocent blood of many martyrs, reverberated with the speeches of an impassioned Mussolini, bore the cries of those who witnessed the shooting of John Paul II, and patiently waited out the silence of a city locked down due to a deadly virus. No one person can claim to feel what Rome has experienced throughout all these centuries. Only Rome itself, with its very soil as the silent witness, can make that claim. The endless story of an endless Rome will continue, even as this series comes to an end. This has been Rome, a history in images.